Anyway, without further ado, we got our first guest in the studio. He's head of A&R for CR2. As a radio producer, he is the best in the business, having produced for Pete Tong, Judge Jules, Seb Fontaine, amongst others. He now resides in Ibiza and has a hit riding high in the Beatport charts.
Yeah, right.
Please welcome Damian Wilson. Damian, how are you?
I'm very good, Dan, and you?
Yes, very good. Now, how's your summer been? I mean, you've been working so hard. I've just seen you everywhere.
Yeah, very good. I've had an interesting first summer of living here. I've been here for, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years, God knows how many years on the trot, coming out to do specific things on a weekly or a daily basis, but actually living here and actually, you know, being here on every day throughout the whole summer has been interesting and good. It's a lot more work than I thought it might have been, but it's good. No, it's fantastic, and this is exactly what I expected. So, I
mean, have you suffered, or not suffered, but have you enjoyed that kind of? You're in Ibiza and you don't just do one job; you do about 10.
No, exactly. It's better doing it that way. You know, as I say, I do A&R for CR2 Records. That's going really well. Within that, licensing compilations, you know, we've got coming up Space and our CR2 album, Sands, and a Cafe Mambo one. You know, we're really pushing the comps in that sense. So, you know, things have to manoeuvre. I'm producing a radio show for Pasha every Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I also I work with David Guetta doing some music and a radio show with him. So it keeps me busy, and actually for the last 2 nights is the first time I've gone to bed before 12 o'clock.
Wow.
Which is nice.
Okay, let's just start right at the beginning. Yeah. Right, how did you actually get started? Because you've got quite an interesting history with dance music, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I DJ'd in Greece for 3 years, then went to Australia for a year, came back when I needed a job, and started working as a runner for a radio production company, answering the telephone on the Essential Selection, you know, which was fantastic, and thought, you know, that's okay, this is a nice little step in the right direction, and through that became an assistant producer on a show, and then I worked on Judge Jules' show, Pete's show, Seb Fontaine. I've produced all of them, you know, for numerous amounts of years, and then yeah, through that you get to a certain point where, you know, it was fantastic, and the next step for me would have been going away from the music and looking after a team of people, and I wanted to stay in with the music. That's why when I left Radio 1, I felt the right move was to work for a record label. I joined CR2 just as they were having the hit with Fedde Le Grand, and it just felt like the right place to move to. So,
I mean, you've got a pretty incredible statistic as far as CR2 goes. Like in the last in the last month, what percentage of CR2 releases were in the top 100?
Well, we've just had 2 big albums out. We had the Space Ibiza album out, and also the CR2 Ibiza, you know, album that we do every year. And when the Ibiza album came out, we had 66 tracks in the top 100 over a weekend, which was, you know, a lot of people sort of like emailed saying, who does your press and marketing and all this sort of stuff? And it's like, well, you know, this is all done in-house, and, you know, the team have worked really hard to push the tracks out there. You know, we had really strong track listing on the Space. The Ibiza album is all CR2 catalogue, but we had to sign some new records for it, and it paid dividends. You know, selling records on anyway nowadays is really difficult, and it's a new format that seems to be working by selling them via a compilation.
I mean, but that's pretty incredible to have that many releases out. I mean, that kind of leads me on to my next question. Like, it's a bit of a shaky ground, but you have found certain records for certain people, haven't you, over the years? You've been, well, that is kind of one of your
Well, I mean, when I was working at Radio 1 and producing the Essential Selection and Judge Shaw's, you'd get sent records as well. You'd pass them on to the DJ hoping they would pick the records that you've selected. You know, I had to choose records for, you know, for parts of the show that, you know, was something that I can do, not a problem. I'm now selecting music for David Guetta for his DJ sets. I send him, I mean, he hasn't got time to do that, to go through all his promos. So it's a case of I send him the best records that are around that I think that you know, that he's going to play, and you know, towards the back end of his sets, you know, they do get played, and it's nice seeing them out getting played out in Pasha. I mean, you know, it's good.
Okay, I mean, this is always one of those sort of things that you can't ever quantify or put into words, but I mean, you must get a certain kind of feeling when you hear a track which you know is going to be suitable for someone. I mean, that's pretty interesting. I mean, because a lot of DJs find music that's suitable for them as an individual, but I mean, you're finding music for all these different individuals for so many different
I suppose I'm you know, when it comes to me personally liking music, I like all streams of dance music, whether, you know, it's your disco stuff that is getting played at Cafe Mambo, you know, the chilled out stuff that's all along the beach bars, too, you know, going to, you know, various nights that maybe some people might not think are cool, but then I like hearing the cool music as well. You're just a music lover, aren't you? Well, essentially, yeah, and I still get a buzz from hearing a really good record, and if I think it's a good record, you know, it's you get, you know, the goosebumps go up. I signed a record last year and I only heard a minute and a half of it, and I had goosebumps all over my arms, and I just, you know, you just go, oh my god, this is amazing, and from that we've signed the artist as a 2-album deal. Just on that one record, you know, and we hadn't even heard anything else from him. So, you know, it's Jacob Plump, by the way. plug.
Excellent. So moving on, What about your own track, your own productions? Like, do you want to tell us about the story behind your track?
Yeah, I mean, well,
Love So Strong.
Yeah, when after I left Radio 1, I felt, after criticising so many other people's music, that it was about time that people criticised my taste of music, if you like. I made a record 2 years ago, did okay, we had a Don's mix on it, and then I made this other record with other producer Darren Cook, and we got Steve Edwards to do the vocal. It's called Love So Strong. We released it with mixes from Waddy and Groove Natics probably about 2 months ago. Didn't connect, and you know, it's one of those things. It's really difficult selling records nowadays, but for some reason on the Ibiza album it went top 4. It went into the top 4, and there doesn't seem to be any real reason why that record did so well on that album and not on the original release.
I mean, do you think it's kind of like a context thing, that, you know, sometimes a film comes out, it's not the right time, it's not the right place,
yeah, definitely,
and then suddenly in a new setting, you know, it's so funny, isn't it? Like Bjork's debut album, you know, that actually bombed when it first came out, and then she did that. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly the track, but you know, they stuck it on it, and then suddenly the whole album made sense, and then that's it. Big time sense.
What time is it?
Okay. So I saw you at Cadenza on Sunday.
Yeah.
Now that's very innovative for Pasha to move in that direction.
Yeah.
I mean, quite controversial as well, but I mean, you know,
a good move for them, I think.
I mean, but how many? I mean, what an incredible atmosphere, and so great to sort of see the Pasha dance floor rocking. You know, maybe to slightly different sounds. I mean, where do you think things are heading now musically?
Well, I mean, you know, let's talk about the whole setup they have, if you like. They have the Swedes, David Guetta, Murillo, and everyone thinks it's a bit more of a commercial club, but you know, musically, probably Cadenza is more what it's more renowned for from years ago. So in a way, it's the, you know,
it's
was
come
the
full
right
circle.
It has in a sense, and you know, the talk on the island, you know, is Luciano sold out sort of thing. No, it's a fantastic ground for them to do their party at. It's a great venue, and you know, I think musically people aren't afraid to go to certain places to hear the right music. If they like the music, they're going to go wherever it is. You know, the crowd in there is, you know, it's got a new audience, which I think is great for Cadenza, because that's part of the reason for them moving, is to get a new audience and not just keep on preaching to the same people that they've done for the last X amount of years.
But do you think that sound is going to kind of cross over? Everything's going to become even more sort of, I mean, you know, housey and more percussive? I
mean, yeah, those sounds of you're finding a lot more music being produced. Like all the younger producers that are coming through are trying to make now a record that would fit on a Cadenza release. You know, whereas before they might have been saying we want a record that fits on Defected, or we want a record that fits on Toolroom, or you know, even Positiva, you know, in its real heyday. They're having a great resurgence now, but yeah, it's you know.
So can we see CR2 going in that direction?
Well, we have an underground series which you know, is working really well for us. Again, it's a compilation of records that maybe we wouldn't normally release on CR2, but we think are fantastic records, that has now got a platform, you know, that's doing really well. We had a Tapash record, Chicago Groove, that went top 10 within the underground series. So it's cutting through.
You're always doing that, aren't you? Sort of, you know, as well as your big hitters, you've always got to have that stream of underground content.
Of course, and that's the only way that keeps any label or any club or DJ fresh, is just to keep moving with the times. So
definitely. Well, I know that we could both talk for many hours chewing the fat. Damian Wilson, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're now going to be treated to a little mix by yourself for about the next 30 minutes.
Cool.
Cheers, Damian.
This is